Everyone. Hope everyone had a good first week in class, and just wanted to do our week one summary for those that have not done an Ed puzzle before, which is probably everyone. I don't think I've had you guys in class. I use this to replace the weekly summaries that I think you've probably done in some of the other classes. We'll review the Ed puzzle video each week. I'll have a few questions in here, which you'll see as we're going along. And so you'll complete the Ed puzzle questions within Ed puzzle. And then we'll review information from the week. If there happens to be a quiz in the class that week, we may review quiz questions or whatever it happens to be. And then that's all you have to do. You don't have to bring anything over to Blackboard. It's just simply reviewing the information in the Ed puzzle, and then at the end of the week when I do my grading for the week. So for this week I'll do it in week 3. I'll bring the information over for you. So once you complete it in Ed puzzle, you're all set. There's nothing else for you to do. So I just wanted to go over some of the info from last week. Good work in the discussion boards. Just a quick reminder, I think everyone is well aware and you know, everyone did a great job in the discussions this week. First post is due Wednesday night, 11:59 RMU time. The remaining posts, 2 additional posts due by Sunday night, 11:59 RMU time. And you do have to post on 3 different days during the week. I don't require everyone to have their posts up by Friday. I know that a lot of you work full-time, or I think most everybody works, and you may not have time to get to everything by Friday night, so I don't require that. However, if we have a week where there's a paper due and you want to spend the weekend working on your paper, it is a good idea to get your posts up earlier in the week. And if you don't do your post, if you leave it to Sunday to do your 2 remaining posts, you will lose points because you do have to post on 3 different days during the week in order to receive full points. I do want to talk a little bit about strategic management, and the discussion was great. You did a great job this week kind of pulling that function out. And depending on the organization, there may be somebody that's tasked with being in charge of strategic planning. In a large organization, there may be a whole area that's tasked with this function. But the thing that we're really going to talk about this term is the fact that it's really not a task that's limited to one person. Strategic planning it really needs to be looked at today, and this is how it's really evolved over this time frame. It's actually really the time frame that I've been in the industry. So over this past, say 30 years, it's evolved from it being, planning being a complete finance function where we're just planning about how many dollars we're going to be able to spend this year, to it being a true strategic management function. So it includes not just that strategic planning, okay, here are the goals that we're going to set for the year, for the next 2 years, for the next 5 years, but also managing around those on a daily basis, weekly basis, and really looking at the trajectory. How are we working toward those goals? How do we need to adjust? And for those of you, I know that you've been in class with Dr. Hampe over the last little bit. Dr. Hampe's focus is really quality patient safety, and those areas really work on quality improvement. So quality improvement is all about making plans, measuring, seeing how you're going forward. In strategic management, it's really no different. You need to make plans, you need to take an action, you need to measure and adjust. So it's really the same function, but we're kind of looking at a different aspect of the enterprise. So we've gone from a system where we used to just make plans and then look at it maybe at the 6-month time frame or the 3-month time frame every quarter or something. And now we're really measuring these things on a regular basis. every day, every week, to see how we're progressing in an organization that really embraces strategic management. I'm not going to say that happens everywhere, it really doesn't, but it should. That's really that's where the movement is going. Truly effective, strategically managed organizations will function in that way. So they're going to have strategic management really has these three aspects. There's strategic planning, so that planning piece, strategic thinking, and then that continual movement toward that goal. And I'm just going to flip over here to my book. On page 12 in your textbook, that exhibit 1-1, which was the thinking map, and you had that thinking map that you used for, I think it was your written assignment this week. That thinking map talked about that. So there's those three pieces, strategic thinking, strategic planning, and managing momentum. So what I wanted to talk about with that thinking map a little bit, and you probably did delve into this, but really that, kind of that first piece of strategic thinking and that last piece of managing strategic momentum are so impacted by environment. Definitely external environment. So the health policy issues, regulatory issues, governmental issues in general. So maybe not just regulatory, but government entities can impact you. Other healthcare entities can impact you. Other non-healthcare entities can impact you. Your customers can impact you. There's so many different ways that your plans, your thinking, how that you are kind of oriented in the industry, etc. So that strategic thinking piece. And then also the managing strategic momentum. So how are you moving toward the plan that you've chosen? But that middle piece, that strategic planning, that's where you're really kind of digging into yourself. So I'm sitting down, we're analyzing internal data, analyzing external data, and then making those decisions about how are we going to move forward to, it could be that your strategy is your overall strategy for your organization, or it could be just a single area. Maybe you're developing a strategy to open a new unit, or to improve quality, or to improve patient satisfaction or something. So strategies don't necessarily have to be your entire strategy for your whole organization. It can be focused in one area in particular. So just some things to think about. One of the things that we talked about in the discussion this week was what types of qualities, or what would a strategic planner need? Someone that's involved in strategic planning. And don't necessarily think about a strategic planner as a job. It could be someone that's involved in management in a facility or an organization, or it could be a job. You could be director of strategic planning. So it could be one or the other. But someone that's involved in strategic planning, what qualities would they want to have? What would you want to have that person from a competency standpoint? What would be important? And so you definitely want to have someone that has great vision. You want them to be visionary in some way, a visionary leader that can see that ability, see that, have the ability to see that future, have that crystal ball. Of course, we don't have that necessarily, but they need to be able to kind of be visionary in the way that monitoring regulatory, monitoring environment, and be accepting and flexible and adaptive to those types of changes, and understand enough about the past to be visionary to the future. I know that in the past, these types of changes have created, these types of environmental changes have created this impact. So by looking at what's going on currently, this is how it may impact the future. So it's important to be visionary as a strategic planning leader in some way. Also really important to strategic planners is to embrace systems thinking. So you really need to lead from the top down and the bottom up. And the thing to keep in mind with systems thinking is that everyone can be impactful. And you'll hear me say throughout your program, any class you have me in, you'll hear me talk about leading from the seat you're in. So you don't have to be the CEO to be a leader in your organization. You can be impactful as a leader by using good leadership skills. You build that leadership toolkit and be a good leader in your role. So you can be a great leader working in the front office of an organization, working in the back office of an organization, working as a clinical employee, or being the CEO. You can be impactful in any of those roles. So lead from the seat you're in. And so in an organization that embraces systems thinking with that top-down, bottom-up approach, when you have folks that are leading from the seat they're in, those folks can really be impactful in strategic planning because they're willing to speak out. They're willing to share their expertise and then help to build these really impactful strategic plans and help to manage them moving forward. Well, this part of the plan's not working. They're willing to speak out and help and problem solve. It's not just about speaking out, unfortunately. That's the easy part. But here's how we can solve this problem moving forward and keep it moving. I also wanted to share this slide. I actually got this slide for my other class, my undergraduate class, because we were talking about leadership competency. But I thought because we were talking about competencies of folks that were involved in strategic planning, I thought it might be interesting for you as well. So this is the top 10 leadership competencies. They had asked, it was from Harvard Business Review, they'd asked 195 leaders across the world to rate all these different qualities. And these 10 were the 10 that came to the top. And it's not surprising at all. A lot of these were very similar to the competencies that you had noted as well in your competencies for strategic planners. So the first one, which as a compliance officer I'm very happy about, ethics and safety, high ethical and moral standards. So this is always something that we want to see in our leaders. So important to always make the right choice from a moral and ethical standpoint. But a lot of these others fit very well into our realm of strategic management. So goals and objectives, but with some loose guidelines and direction. So the purpose of that is so that, here's our goal, but strategic management is not just about here's our goal and here are the strict guidelines we need to follow. Strategic management is about here's our goal and let's craft a plan that is ever changing and evolving to get to where we're going. But communication of expectations, flexibility, open communication again, open to new ideas, and then the feeling of succeeding and failing together, safety for trial and error. Some of the biggest ones in here, which don't necessarily relate to our class, but great for you as leaders coming up, are kind of mentoring and openness. It's so important for leaders to create that mentor-mentee sense, and that leaders are nurturing growth to their team. That it's not, we've gone from kind of a dictatorial approach for leaders to a much more nurturing and growth-driven leaders. The role of a leader is to really grow more leaders as opposed to just rule the organization now, which is great, and I think that's the way it should be. So this was hopefully helpful to you. Talk a little bit more about the things that we had discussed last week. So if you have any questions on this week's material or anything that we covered last week, please don't hesitate to let me know, and I will look forward to seeing everyone in the discussion boards. Thanks so much.